Hello and welcome to First Impressions. This is a show where my co-host Dash Hooper and I evaluate a new album each week, one we've never heard before. And after playing it, we take notes, rate it in a variety of categories, and let you know our thoughts. And tonight, we're going to be looking at the album we should have been looking at back in Halloween.
All right.
It's the 1981 album Juju by Siouxsie and the Banshees. So Dash, how's it going tonight?
And doing wonderful. Yeah, I agree. This is after listening to this would have been the perfect Halloween
Yeah.
episode show. So yeah, doing wonderful.
Missed opportunity. We gotta
Yeah.
hunt down another good goth album for next year because it's kind of, there's 8 million Christmas albums you can visit, but how many albums that are just kind of the perfect soundtrack for Halloween and dark, gloomy nights with full moons? So yeah, with this one, definitely in that category. I mean, I
Yeah.
would say spoilers, but if you know the album, you know what we're talking about. If you've heard any Siouxsie and the Banshees, although I guess I don't really know. I don't have that deep a
I
history of Siouxsie and the Banshees stuff.
I just picked this. I picked this album randomly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any. Well, we're gonna get to that, but yeah, I just picked it randomly. So
Yeah. So I mean, it's if you look at the catalog, it's rated as kind of her top album. It's the one that gets the highest, reviews and acclaim. Even though when we get into the history, it didn't necessarily bring in sales or awards or anything like that. But it was, it was the popular one at the time, or the popular one in retrospect. So yeah, we'll dig more into that. But yeah, first off, like always, we'll start with a history of the band. And I did a lot of listening or podcasts and things like that to kind of dig into the history. There's a podcast that the drummer of Siouxsie and the Banshees and the drummer of The Cure do, where they talk about each other's albums and kind of a back and forth. And they were talking about this one. So kind of got some of the history into the album that way. So a little bit more than my, normal half-ass research. But if I can find the good podcast, I'll always dig into them, because that then someone else did all the deep research and I can just kind of piggyback on it and find out. But yeah, Siouxsie and the Banshees, the history of the bands. She was born Susan Janet Ballion. So she's, Siouxsie Sue is what she goes by in the band. And Siouxsie and the Banshees were formed by accident in 1976. She was a big fixture in the punk scene with the Sex Pistols and the Clash and bands like that. And in 1976, the Sex Pistols were set to play a show, and one of their backing bands backed out of the show. So Siouxsie decided, you know what? We can fill in. At that point, she had been spending a lot of time with a guitarist named Steven Severin, but they had at that point no intentions to form a band. So she told the members of the Sex Pistols, we can fill in. We'll be the opening band, even though they had no material or anything. So they just kind of did a 20-minute improv set where they played the Lord's Prayer, I believe. And Sid Vicious filled in on drums, even though he had never played the drums before. So I can imagine it was some chaotic shit going on.
That's wild.
Two people that have never played in a band together, and a person who'd never played the drums before, get up there and just play a 20-minute set covering the Lord's Prayer. And surprisingly, I guess it's punk, so there was a strong crowd reaction. So because of that crowd reaction, they changed what was intended to be a one-off performance and created a punk band, Siouxsie and the Banshees. And they played gigs from between 76 and 78 with multiple lineups. But the one that kind of solidified in 1978 was Siouxsie on vocals, Steven Severin remained on bass, John McKay took guitars, and Kenny Morris played drums. And that is not the lineup we're going to be talking about tonight. That lineup changes. And I think, honestly, I have to visit a lot of the other Siouxsie stuff, but I really like this particular lineup. And this, if you look through people's kind of feedback, this is considered kind of their prime lineup. This is the one that people talk about the most. So in 1978, they released a single, Hong Kong Garden, and it kind of had the guitar line, the sharp guitar lines, the melodic bass, the strong vocals. It was a lot more punk. And then by the end of 1978, they kind of thought, all right, punk is dead. We're moving on to something else. And they created their debut album, The Scream, which is more considered a post-punk landmark. So they didn't stay punk very long. I guess the more you learn to play your instruments and not just wing it for 20 minutes, the less punk you're going to be. Yeah, I mean, I wish someone had recorded that first performance, because I'm sure Siouxsie would be mortified to watch it, but it's just the crowd reacted well. What would it look like? But of course, now any kind of first performance is going to be documented by a million cell phones. But this, this is pre-cell phone era, and since they were just winging it, someone would have had to bring in professional recording gear. And we're talking early Sex Pistols before they had even released their album. So they probably didn't have any money to bring a video camera in, because those weren't cheap in 1976. So yeah, it's the curiosity kills me, because they could try to recreate it, but it would never be as horrible, because now they've actually learned how to play their instruments.
Yeah.
So their second album, 1979, was Join Hands. It got a little darker, more atmospheric. And at this point, there was internal tensions, and McKay and Morris quit and walked away mid-tour. And then we get the lineup that we know, that we listen to on this album, and that is Budgie on drums, just Budgie. I don't know his real name. I didn't research it. If you know, drop it in the comments. And then John Magooch, the guitarist from the band Magazine, joined them. And this was the lineup that is considered their best lineup, their most creative lineup. And they created the album Kaleidoscope, and has the song Christine on it. Now that one I know, that was one of the ones that I knew before digging into this album. And then Juju, the one we're going to talk about tonight. So I'll leave that on. And then they created A Kiss in the Dream House and Nocturne. And then Magooch left the band in 1982 and was replaced by Robert Smith. So Robert Smith from The Cure became Siouxsie's guitarist. And from what I was hearing when I was listening to the Magooch's, not Magooch, but Budgie's podcast, they were really good friends with The Cure. And during the recording of their album, the one that we're covering tonight, Juju, they were constantly visiting the studio where The Cure was recording Pornography. So The Cure was recording that album. They were recording Juju, and they kind of met, talked, hung out. Oh, wow. And you can see then why Robert Smith would have probably come in and said, okay, I can fill in. Yeah. But I know from also interviews and podcasts that I've read, Siouxsie was not happy when Robert Smith didn't stay a permanent fixture in the band. But he was telling her, I can't possibly focus on two bands in this capacity at the same time, because at that point The Cure was starting to blow up. They were getting bigger, and him being part of two bands was just too much. But I know that there was a little bad blood between that. So 1984, they brought in a new guitarist, John Valentine Carruthers, and they released Hyena. Although Robert Smith played on that album, he was not the touring on that album. And then Tinderbox, which has Cities and Dust. That's the song I know the most from Siouxsie and the Banshees, the one I've kind of gone back to over and over again. And then Through the Looking Glass in 1986, Peep Show in 1988, which has Peekaboo, which I only know because of Beavis and Butthead. So right. I know Beavis going Peekaboo, and it just that's all I know of that. And like I don't even think I've heard the full song, just the Beavis and Butthead, minute and change snippet where Beavis just keeps yelling that out, and it's very entertaining, the Beavis and Butthead of it, but the song itself, I don't think I've ever played.
No.
And then Siouxsie in the 80s, made a new band, side project, The Creatures. They got a little bit of MTV play, and then 91 to 96, lineup shuffled again, but they released Superstition, which has Kiss Them For Me, which that's April's favorite song by them and was their biggest US hit. I remember that being played on K-Rock, which is our kind of local, not local, but LA based alternative station. So that one was in a lot of rotation there. And then The Rapture in 1995, and that was it. After that, they disbanded. They've played reunion shows here and there, but as far as material, no new material came out after 1995, and they just kind of play one-off festival shows where they do this festival in Pasadena over here, and it's all kind of big 80s, 90s, or not really 90s even, just 80s bands, and it's more of their, big reunions of bands like that. So Siouxsie will play that here and there, but otherwise nothing from them.
Right.
All right, so let's dig into the history of this album, considered by many to be their masterpiece. It was released June 6th, 1981, and is considered kind of the first goth rock album. Although I would argue that Bela Lugosi's Dead and Bauhaus, their first album, would be more of the first goth rock album, but neither band wants to be categorized as goth. If you hear them in interviews, they're like, no, we're post-punk, and goth music became a joke, and neither one wants to be categorized as goth, which reminds me so much of emo music, where a lot of these kind of early pioneers, and they would have called themselves kind of post-rock or post-punk as well, but got lumped into that category of emo, and they're like, we're not emo, and no one wants to be called emo. no one wants to be called goth. Where some, like the Get Up Kids, have even gone so far as to be like, we apologize for all those bands we influenced. And it's like, all right, you can say what you want, but you helped create it, and
yeah, you created it.
Yeah, and they can say it's not goth, but come on, the themes and the lyrics flowing through this album, that shit's goth. Quit trying to hide it behind the veil of, oh, we're post-punks. Like, no, it creates that atmospheric, almost cinematic vibe with lyrics about serial killers and and voodoo and everything else. So it's like, you can call it what you want, Siouxsie, but it's goth. So you can't really change what it is. So this album features their second lineup that played on the next, or on the after the first two albums, and that's Siouxsie, Steven Severin on bass, John Magooch on guitar, and Budgie on drums. And they decided after their 1980 album Kaleidoscope, they wanted to do darker, denser, more cohesive sound instead of doing more, because from what I've heard, it's more electronic. The second album Kaleidoscope, I can't say because I haven't played it.
I haven't heard it.
And it was recorded at Playground Studios and produced by Nigel Gray, who was known at that time for working with the Police. And large chunks of the album were recorded live, where they didn't do them in parts. They recorded with all the musicians in studio. And when I was listening to his discussion about this album, he was saying that was how they thought it better created kind of that tension that exists on the album, was by playing it live. If they had done it in separate pieces, they don't think they could have created that same kind of interplay and tension that the album really has. So huge chunks of it were done, and then they overdubbed Siouxsie's vocals later on when they took that out, because they left the instruments alone and re-recorded Siouxsie's vocals in a lot of the tracks. So they talked about it being ritualistic and a possessed performance, and it became, even though not intended, kind of a concept album of dark themes. So
yeah, definitely.
You can't help but hear that. If you haven't heard this album, you definitely gotta bring it. And she said, yeah, the goth Siouxsie said that the darkness came naturally from the band's energy. They weren't trying to create a genre, but I don't think anyone who creates a genre is trying to create a genre. It just kind of happens that way.
Listen, I just learned just by going off Wrapped. I got my everybody got their Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah.
Apparently, I listened to 176 different genres. I don't even know there was that many genres. So
I know.
You probably created something without even knowing you created.
Yeah, there's some genres we didn't know were actual genres. I think mine was 330. Yeah. And I'm like, there's no 330 genres. But then you get into like the alt country of things, like we talked about when we were doing 2 of the albums that we did were considered alt country. And I wouldn't say, I mean, I guess one of them, the Steve Earle, is kind of alt country. But then when we get into what was the other one? Oh, the Cowboy Junkies.
Cowboy Junkies.
It's like I wouldn't go that into alt country. I wouldn't call that alt country. That one, it's kind of a stretch, but it's like, all right, it's easy to kind of lump it in that way. And 330 genres. I'd like to have Spotify break them down for me.
Yeah, I would too.
Because that's a lot of genres, and there probably a lot of them are all the exact same genre. So yeah, that was interesting. I got that Spotify Wrapped as well, and I'm thinking, mine is always a gigantic mess because it's what I play in my classroom and it's what I play in my home. So it's an intermix. It's like you loved jazz, like instrumental jazz and classical music and this and that. It's like, okay, that's what I play in the class, because everything I play in the class is instrumental. I don't play anything with lyrics. And I try to find interesting stuff. Like I've played Godspeed You Black Emperor in the class before they yanked their stuff from Spotify. I'm like, all right, as long as it's instrumental, we're safe. No one's going to get offended by some lyrics. But yeah, I'm just thinking, all right, my Wrapped is such a gigantic mess. And of course, every most listened to artist was someone we covered from the show, because I had to play it over and over again to get familiar with it, to understand it. So yeah, it's like, okay, you have your top artists are Bear versus Shark, and I'm trying to think who else was on there.
What's funny is my age it even had me older.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it aged me up, and we looked at Lorena's, and it had her as 21, and so, but she plays a lot of the kids songs in her class. She'll like you do. So she'll play kids songs. So it dramatically dropped her age down to 21, where I'm up at. I was like, "Are you serious?"
I think I was 39 in my Spotify Wrapped age. I was like, all right, I guess I'm a little. I'm younger than my actual age, so I'll take it. But yeah, mine is such a weird mix.
You can tell by all the albums that I choose for this. Like I said, I go back into early 70s and early 80s, and so I can understand why it thinks I'm.
Yeah, 55, you got what you deserve.
I did.
You drop all that 70s shit. It's like, shut up, old man. Quit playing this old. No more. But yeah. I'm curious what April's would be, because she listens to all that same kind of 70s rock and things like that. So I'd be curious to see, because I was looking and mine was. Yeah, it was Alabama Shakes and Bear versus Shark and Jolie Led, and all the bands we covered were pretty much what my top 10 sat on, because those were the ones I played a lot. And especially if I was about to go see any of them in concert, I'd kind of play another deep dive into them. So Alabama Shakes kind of got a double dose, because first when we covered it, and then when I was getting ready to go see them play, kind of revisiting the songs as we're driving down to the show. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting, and mine, I just don't trust it. I need to make a separate account for my classroom so it doesn't mix the two and be like, one of your favorite artists was Vitamin String Quartet and Beethoven. I'm like, okay, this is a mixed up mess of things.
That's funny.
All right, so yeah, the album, it came out. I had a really hard time finding album sales for it. Yeah, I searched and all I could find was that on its initial release, it sold 60,000 copies in England. Out in the US, there's no way, it doesn't track the sales. It hasn't tracked recent ones, because the vinyl that I bought, that's, where's that? I just have it in here because I was looking at it. That's this one, the vinyl. It was a 2019 re-release of it, so I'm sure there's sales that they could track for it, but yeah, the best I could find is that it sold 60,000 in the UK, and US sales, no track of them. And yeah, it was really hard to find any kind of information. Sometimes you try to dig up any of the things, like what we'll talk about next, the reviews, also really hard to find because it was 1981, and it really, they didn't get a lot of coverage in the US at all. So the US kind of just ignored this album and its release. So finding anything besides, the newer reviews where people praise it on their own is harder to find. So reviews, the ones I did find, and this was, I had to scour 5 or 6 sources to even find the bit of the reviews that I do have. And most of them were just not really showing anything at all. So let's see here. The reviews, it received generally strong reviews. There were some that really did not like Siouxsie's vocal style, so that was the biggest criticism. But NME, which is England's biggest review magazine, that's kind of their version of Rolling Stone. They called it one of the band's most powerful records. They praised Magooch's guitar work and called it astonishing. They thought Siouxsie's vocal performance was strong. Melody Maker thought Siouxsie's vocal performance was strong, and the band's was very cohesive, and thought that it had dark ritualistic energy. Sounds Magazine called it one of the best albums of the year and thought it was an intense clarity of vision. Rolling Stone, I could not find the review. I could only find the amount of stars on the review, and that was 3 stars. So not even your standard Rolling Stone 5-star. Although I would imagine if they revisited it, they'd slap a 4-star or a 5-star on it.
I bet they would slap a 5-star on this one.
I think so, based on the legacy of this album and its influence in just alt rock in general. I mean, because when we get into the song by song, you can absolutely hear so many bands in this album. So yeah, we'll wait till we kind of go the reviews of the songs. But yeah, it's considered now, its modern reception is considered a landmark album. Bands, there's multiple bands who have cited this album in particular as an influence on their own work. That's the Smiths, The Cure. Robert Smith was always praising Magooch's playing, and yeah, I mean, he had to step in and fill those shoes of Magooch. And Robert Smith is a great guitarist, but Magooch is just killing it on this album. Radiohead has cited this album as an influential album for them. PJ Harvey, and yeah, if you listen to the early PJ Harvey stuff, you can absolutely hear that connection. LCD Sound System, 9 Inch Nails, Smashing Pumpkins, all cited this album, and you can hear it in there. I mean, you can absolutely hear in this album those ones. And then ones that I couldn't find citing the album as an influence would be the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, because I mean, Karen O is just being Siouxsie and being the best version of Siouxsie that she can be. Because if you listen to any of those early Yeah Yeah Yeahs albums, I mean, it's the same kind of weird screeching and just kind of wild noise that she can make.
This is better than Kate Bush screeching.
Yeah. It's. I think the deepness of it. I think Kate Bush's is just too shrill. Where this one's got. She's got that kind of that more rumble in her voice that works. But yeah, I mean, I was listening to certain parts and I'm like, oh wow, that is just that's just this band, or that's just that band. I mean, I heard Jane's Addiction, which is another one that didn't directly cite her as an influence. You hear Jane's Addiction in some of the songs.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it is just all over the DNA of what alt rock became in the 80s, in the later 80s and the 90s and beyond, even into the 2000s. So I mean, this album, it's just all over. And then what goth music became, even though Siouxsie kind of said, all right, we did something dark and brooding, and all this stuff is just cheesy hammer horror. So she did not like what goth became. She did not like being called goth. So if you ever meet Siouxsie, don't be like, you're a goth queen, and she'll slap you or something.
I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm not going to say it to her, but I don't know why it would be such a, I don't want to say insult, but I don't know why it would be such a downer, because I don't know. I get where she's coming from, but I don't know why it would be a downer.
I think it's just one of those things where certain musics kind of take a direction that you don't like, and you don't want to think that we're the reason this happened. But I mean, you could throw it at Bauhaus just as much. I mean, Bela Lugosi's Dead is such a goth staple, and it predates this album. I think that was 1978. So
yep, I think it was actually.
It predates this, so you know, they can just be like, no, just blame Bauhaus, leave us alone. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, I guess. I don't understand, because even when I was listening to the interviews that I was listening to, none of the band members really want to be looked at as goth pioneers, even though it's undeniable in this album. They really want to be called post-punk instead, but it's kind of like Nirvana. They didn't want to be called grunge. I mean, I guess it's just when you kind of build these subcategories of music, the bands generally don't like being lumped into them. They just like, I'm rock or I'm alternative rock, and leave me alone.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dig into our overall thoughts on this one. Let me get that up real quick. I know I have that one here, but there we go. Overall thoughts. What are your overall thoughts with this album?
All right, let's just this is a movie. Okay, this is not even an album. This is a movie. That's how well this album played to me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by movie, I mean, there's albums you can listen to and you don't feel like you're in it. Every song is you're there. Like you can feel like you're in a movie with this album. Like you could just be doing anything. And because you can, or at least for me, I'm just speaking for me, you connect with a lot of the songs. It's deep. Psychological is the word I had for it. And what I mean by that, you're psychologically there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is so good. From start to finish. I mean, I'm gonna have some skip songs, but I'm not skipping them because they're horrible or anything like that. It's just there's like 6 songs that I would just put on continuous repeat. Like, I'm serious. I would put on continuous repeat, especially when I'm writing.
Yeah.
And I'm in a deep, dark place writing. This is an album I'm going to put on and put those songs on repeat.
Yeah.
But really good album. I'm serious. We talked about it at the beginning. I'm going to say it again. I'll reiterate it. This should have been it's a missed opportunity for us to have for a Halloween, because
I know it was too easy. That was a slam dunk, and we botched it, and we bricked it. So yeah, but we missed our easiest slam dunk.
These songs moved me in a way, and I'm not like, I'm a horror fan, don't get me wrong, but this moved me better than any movie.
Yeah,
this album moved me better than any movie or horror movie that I've watched. I just love it. Yeah.
All right, so my thoughts. I said it's a dark, brooding journey through the hidden cracks and crevices of a dangerous night. It moves and creaks through the darkest corners of the mind and leaves the listener both unsettled and completely satisfied.
Yep.
So, yeah, it is definitely. It felt like it's very cinematic in the fact that it's just press play at midnight. This is one, like I talked about when I was writing my stuff, trying to get research for some of the Cthulhu Invade stories that I've written. And I had to listen to a lot of Lovecraft when I was night running, and it leaves you very unsettled. This album would do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And did. I was playing it last night on my run. It was pitch black, and just like, all right, this is the second alternative to playing HP Lovecraft stuff in the middle of like in the dark, to get your mind racing in all the wrong ways. So yeah, it can definitely leave you unsettled, but it's satisfied and happy. You're not saying, I'm unsettled, I never want to hear that again. It's like, nope, I want to start that over again. And it did definitely pass the run test. It's got great movement. I think the drumming, Budgie's drumming, just like it just keeps you going.
Yeah, you're running because you're running for your life.
Yeah. Night shift comes on, like, let's go, pick up that pace. It's a pace it makes your pace faster. Like so many of the albums fail to do, this one gets you going a little faster so you can get out of the dark night and sweltering darkness that's this album's creating.
Yeah, Amanda, Aquarian vibes. Yeah. For sure.
Okay. Yes. So let's see. I agree. Yes, and welcome, Amanda. So let's dig into let's start pulling it up into our favorite songs. So best songs. I'll let you go. It was hard to not just list every song and give a reason for it. So I tried to be as diplomatic as possible and give real good reasons for any of the ones I picked, instead of that shit slaps, which I wrote initial notes a couple of times. I'm like, come on now, be more specific. You can't just say that shit slaps, but it does. When we get to Halloween, I mean, that shit slaps.
Voodoo Dolly, number one, hands down. The last song on the last song on the album, Voodoo Dolly. Man, where this is like puts the meaning, because obviously the title of the album is Juju, so we all kind of know what, you got bad juju, good juju. That's exactly what this song is. Good. I mean, if I can literally picture people sitting around a table doing their seance with this song on in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to wait. I mean, like I said, the songs are good. All of them are good. Like I have skips, but it's not as. I'll explain when we get to skips why. Man, this is just a beautiful song. The other one, Spellbound. Whoo! Spellbound. Just get the guitar alone. Never mind her beautiful voice on the song. The guitar really brings you, like we were talking about. He was the guitar in this entire album was phenomenal, but on this this lead-in song, oh man, it just you're ensnared. We talk about this every time on the show. You gotta get me at the opener, and you gotta get me at the closer.
Yeah, we've talked about it more than once. So you're right.
Yeah, this album did that. It got me. I mean, for lack of better term, she bewitches you.
Yeah.
In this first song, such a great. That's one of my favorite songs. And then my last one, while we could talk about a lot of them, Night Shift, like you said.
Yeah.
Woo! Night Shift is so good.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, this is something where like Jason or Michael are chasing you, type song.
Yeah.
And like the Predator vibes are there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. But it's just it's a good song. It really is a great song. So those are my.
And I got research that I did on that song. So when I talk about it, I'll let you know a lot of the history behind that one. So I did have Voodoo Dolly. I love that one. I like the slow build. It takes its time. I mean, it's 7 minutes long. It doesn't rush. It's kind of just starting with that bass. The guitars are kind of just little bits of guitar, and then those drums just build and build and build, and it's, oh man, those drums are just so powerful. And then her lyrics and her singing, it brings all this power, but it just earns it. It doesn't rush. It takes its time. It builds and builds and builds until it explodes. And that's one of my favorite kind of songs, is just one that just builds on itself into the point that it's just this explosive ending. And I think that's one of the things.
8 minutes, I think, right?
Yeah,
So, or close to
like
8 minutes.
seven and change. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that is
just, it earns every moment of that song. It's you some songs of that length, you just feel like, all right, it's wearing out its welcome. I'm done. Get on with it. But this one, you're just like, no, keep going. And it ends, and you're just like, I could take another 8 minutes of this song. We could keep going, and there would be no complaints.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah, that one, I had that. I had Spellbound. I had let me see here. So I wrote down for Spellbound, I said it. Okay, first off, it's named after an Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Yeah,
And I guess in the movie Spellbound, there's a dream sequence. And this song is kind of trying to bring that dream sequence into song form. So I love Budgie's machine. He's got this machine gun drumming at certain parts. And then it sounds like, I think it's tom drums he's playing, but I just called it trash can drums, because it just sounds like he's beating on an upside down trash can. It's like do do do, just that strong drumming. And I'm a percussion freak. You give me good percussion, I'm always here for it. And then just kind of the interplay that builds this atmosphere. And like you said, perfect album opener. You couldn't place it better on the album, because it just grabs you and says, let's go. The mood is set. We know what's going to happen, and we know it's not going to be, love songs and puppies. We know it's going to be a dark ride. And yeah, I mean, as soon as it starts, I'm here for it. So I love that interplay that they do. And then you, like say, it's Siouxsie's vocals kind of right onto it. Also really powerful. Yeah. So I also had Night Shift. So that one, it's extremely disturbing. At first I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, is it about a vampire? But then I researched, and it is about Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, who was convicted of murdering 13 women between 1975 and 1980. And it's called Night Shift because he worked in a cemetery, was a grave robber, perhaps necrophiliac, and he requested to work the night shift so he could do these things and not be caught. So she wrote it when she had heard someone else talking about his story. She thought, I want to write a story. It's not really from his perspective. She's not writing it in his view. She's more writing it as, the point of view of the people being victimized by him. And I thought it was just, it's really disturbing.
The stalker.
Or disturbing when you know the history of it. So yeah, that one, she was just so interested in, this killer and what he did, and wrote from that perspective. And it's kind of, early true crime. So there you go. Right. It's like, this, Peter Sutcliffe could be a Netflix documentary now, but Siouxsie kind of wrote from his warped mind, but not in a first person where she was doing all those things. So yeah, I had that one on there. I have too many, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. I liked Arabian Nights. I thought that one, the drumming was great. It's, it's, the sentiments are very dark, but so is the album. And just Budgie, my notes, Budgie is a beast. Like that.
Yeah,
man,
that one.
His drumming is so strong in that one.
It's unsettling, but in a good way. I mean, it's hard to say unsettling in a good way, but it's unsettling in a good way. It is. It really is.
Yeah. And then Halloween, that, like I said, that my notes, that shit slaps. But I knew that one before. This one was the only one that I had heard before. Because I think it's on every Halloween playlist. If there's a Halloween album playlist, this song is undoubtedly on it. And it's probably been used in some movies. I know I've heard it outside of just, Spotify playlist. But it's got that driving bass and drums. And you kind of have that, like the screaming guitar sounds. I love that one.
It
And
was
then
great for effect.
yes.
Yeah.
And then I had Monitor as my last one. So that one, it's got lyrics that we're talking about. She was talking about the cameras that they had installed it outside of people's houses to supposedly keep them safe, and what would happen if those cameras became people's entertainment, and you would watch people, having all these heinous crimes occur out on the street, and you're just watching it like it's, a new entertaining movie. And when I heard that one, that was where I wrote down, oh, I hear Jane's Addiction, I hear Smashing Pumpkins, and you can see that in kind of like The Running Man. All right, it's his pain, but it's our entertainment. And so much of social media, like what are people willing to do to get those likes and get those views? And that, kind of where Monitor, even though they were talking about cameras on the streets in 1981, it still resonates now with, the lengths people will go to just be noticed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, and I think that's it. I picked most of the album as my favorite songs.
It is one of those albums. It really is one of
Mhm.
those albums where you could just say that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's safe to throw many songs in because you're not going to have. I mean, you're not going to have one and be wrong. Although one of the podcasts I listened to, they gave some good history about the album, but they just generally hated everything about it. So it was kind of funny listening to a different point of view on the album, where they were just coming and saying how much they disliked so much about it. And I'm thinking, wow, I guess we're not playing the same album. But they did, like I said, they gave some of the good history. That's where I found out the history of them playing that first show with, with their 20-minute version of one song. So yeah, it was Sid Vicious drumming. I can't imagine that was great. A guy who's never drummed. I'm sure it's just like a 10-year-old who's got a drum kit and just pounds away on it. But It's punk rock again. It's allowed. All right. So now let's dig into lyrics. What are some of the lyrics that stood out to you on this one?
Let me pull up from voodoo.
Cool.
Let me get it here. I'll get my thing and my notes. Are you listening to your fear? The beat is coming near, like that little drum in your ear transfixes you to your fear. Oh my goodness. That is, I mean, again, we all have, well, you and I have a very fondness for horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is that. It's that you're like, I can picture being in a movie, and that's what's being whispered in my ear as I'm running for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got chill bumps.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those chill bump songs.
Mm-hmm.
And she's such an ugly little dolly, and she's making you look very silly. And when you listen into her ear, you get paralyzed. That whole song, you're just like, oh my god, you're gripped. So I love that one. And then from what is this one from? I got so many of them written down here. This one is from Spellbound.
Mm-hmm.
You hear laughter cracking through the walls. It sends you spinning. You have no choice. You hear laughter cracking through the walls. It sends you spinning. You have no choice. That's the verse. You would think it was the
chorus.
The chorus, but she's just telling you, right?
Yeah.
She's putting, again, bewitching. It's literally called Spellbound. You're being bewitched. And I just thought that was fantastic. In man, I don't. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally, on this album. This is one of those albums where no matter what lyric I think that you're talking about, or you could write down as best lyrics.
Yeah.
And so I just did those two, but you can go into, again, you can go back into Night Shift. You can go back into Halloween Night, like you said, and pull everything. You can just pull the whole song and say, here's your best lyrics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. So let's see, which ones did I pick here? I just had a couple as well because it's kind of there's so much. So I put Into the Light, and Into the Light is one of the songs where I would say it's the most introspective on an album that's full of kind of horror movie dreads and things like that. Into the Light functions more, I would say, as more that what could be a standalone song where she's actually looking and it's about dying, going into the light, but kind of that unsettled feeling,
Right.
what's going to happen next. So where she said, standing in the light, always sitting on the line, never on a side, always wanting to be right, standing in the light. I never wanted to be right. Now I'm attracted by the light and I'm blinded by the sight. So I like,
I got
yeah,
poltergeist vibes from that.
go into the light, Carol Ann. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that, and it's talking about kind of not knowing, did you choose right? Was the religion choice you made the correct one? What's going to happen? You want to be right, but you don't know if you'll be right. So I liked that one. That one was the least kind of horror movie dread, like so many of the other songs, and most like her actually thinking about this. And of course, she's not going into the light. She's still alive and kicking. She just played, I think, last year or 2 years ago, she just played a show. So yeah, she's still playing shows and not going in the light. But this more feels like, instead of, the serial killer's eyes and things like that, this one is more her looking at it and thinking, okay, is this the right choice? And it's kind of, you could throw this onto the last Cure album where it's, looking more as you're older, because when she wrote this, she was probably in her early 20s. So it's, you're not thinking about the light then, except for all goth albums think about the light and death. Yeah. So but she's not goth, of course. All right. And then Monitor, I had that one as well, where she said his face was full of intent and we shook with excitement. Then the victim stared up, looking strangely at the screen as if her pain was our fault. But that's entertainment, what we crave for inside. No more second-rate movies from the people, from those people outside. So again, just kind of watching other people's pain for their entertainment. And it kind of resonates. It's a very dark sentiment, like the album in its entirety. There's not much light sentiment in this particular album, but I just like how she expressed that, where the victim looks up and they're just like, no, we're not worried about you. This is for our entertainment. And just like kind of as you're playing that, you have that the interplay between all of the instruments. It's just, oh man, you the first time I played this album, I'll have to say, I just kind of vibed with it. I wasn't digging into the lyrics. I was just feeling the musicianship, if I could speak, and her vocals, and just kind of that interplay between everything. And I wasn't even thinking about the things she was saying. Then you start listening to the lyrics, you're just like, oh damn, that's dark. Whoops, that one's dark. So you find how kind of dark and unsettling the lyrics are, and that's what she said she was going for, was just this unsettling but also kind of sultry. And I don't know, none of these lyrics are sultry. You don't think none of these are love songs, but I guess her vocal performance would be the sultry of it, because this is like serial killers and voodoo dolls and severed heads. So it's like, there's nothing sultry, but I guess her delivery would be where you would categorize anything in this as sultry. But it was it's that one. And like you said, I could have grabbed a bunch of the other lyrics, because they're all just make a book about that someone should create an anthology and call it Juju and make it a comic based on each one of these songs, and it would be very dark, very adult, but could be interesting to see it done, because all of these are so cinematic in their delivery and execution.
I would like to see, like you brought, I had thought about that. I would like to see almost like a television anthology, so or like a HBO Max or Amazon, where they take each song and do a 45-minute to an hour long episode of each track. It would be gold. I mean, we're talking millions and billion. We're talking billions of dollars made off this. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Oh man, because yeah, I could. I was sitting there thinking, man, what could I turn Night Shift into, and what could I? Oh, I
Yeah,
would.
and someone's got to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess if they could get Siouxsie's blessing, then yeah, you could make one season of just every single one of these songs, and
Mhm.
they would be dark and wild, and drop them right in October, where this one
Oh
should have
yeah.
been dropped. We're here with sleigh bells and Santa hats, and then we're playing this album. So I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
poor timing perhaps, but there's always a good
Uh,
time for goth, so why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
This
right.
this is an album. If you are a creator, ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there listening in TV land with us, if you're a creator, this is one that will get your creative juices flowing. There's
Mhm,
no doubt
mhm.
in my mind.
Yeah, except for that one podcast I listened to who hated it, but
Well,
that's
they don't count.
okay.
They
They're
don't
they're
count.
all entitled to their opinions, and there's
Yeah.
some podcast out there probably praising the Kate Bush album we shit on and be
Yeah.
like, all right, what do those two idiots know? So, but it's funny because I did go and start reading the comments put on that podcast, and I'm like, see, I know, I relate. I
Yeah.
can feel the anger that was spewing from everyone as they were called morons and they were called idiots. It's just like, I've been there. I
Yeah.
know. So, yeah, it's like you're allowed to have your opinion, but people are allowed to destroy your opinion. And no one wrote anything quite as passionate and long, but everyone was calling them idiots. So,
Yeah.
you know what? They are fully entitled to their opinion. And they, just like us, they recognize the importance of the album. They recognize the importance of Siouxsie, but also entirely hated it. So I'm thinking, I know that. I understand the sentiment. I don't agree with that one, but yeah, you gotta say what you feel, because if you just pretend like everything's good, where's the fun in that? Although this one is our first one that's kind of just like we're good with it. Although I guess yeah, Counting Crows, we were here for that one too.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
had some good ones. We haven't run into a dud. Hopefully the next one's not a speed bump of a dud coming our way. One can hope.
One can hope.
All right, so now any skips for you on this one?
Okay, this is going to be a little different. I'm stepping outside of our normal rules, so I'm not
Mm-hmm.
skipping these in the normal sense. As you know, every album has an A and B side. I
Mm-hmm.
have some songs that I'm taking from and just putting it on a B side and calling it my B side,
Okay,
my
got it.
B side of this album. And it's not because they're bad. It's because it's just the way it would flow a little bit better to me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, um, Into the Light starts off. It feels like it would start that B side, and then I go
Yeah.
into Monitor, and then Sin in My Heart, and then Head Cut. Those Head Cut is kind of the. If I had to say there was a or B rated song, like it got a grade of B, Head
Mm-hmm.
Cut would get the B. All the rest of them get A's or A minuses. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying these are bad. This is just I was like, this would fit better for me this way,
Mm-hmm.
because some of them are on the A side. Into the Light is the second song, but I would have that start the second side.
So you're just shuffling it.
I'm shuffling it, so I'm not really skipping. I'm shuffling, and then I would go Into the Light, Monitor, Sin in My Heart, and then end with Head Cut on the B side.
Okay.
Because I think it just the way those songs flowed from me there. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a little bit different than what I was getting with the ones that I like.
Yeah.
Or I should say I liked all of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a bad song on this album to me,
Yeah.
but that's how I would have done it. I would have reshuffled it a little bit, and that's how I would have finished it. But that's me. That's just a little quirk I had for this album. But they're all great songs,
Yeah.
this was an album that I could literally say that I had no problem sitting down listening from first song to last song and just
Mm-hmm.
enjoying the entire thing.
Yeah. None of them screamed, "Oh, I got to move the needle right
Right,
now."
right, right.
And there's been some where it's just like, yeah, that annoys me so much. I'm gonna get up and put the effort in. There's nothing that would say that. I mean, Head Cut, it was the closest I got to a
Yeah,
skip as well. It's just not as strong as the other material. I think lyrically it gets a bit to the point of being overly ridiculous.
yeah,
Although I mean, I decapitate 1,000,000 people in my book, so I'm not one to talk. It might actually be my theme song,
It
so who
probably is
knew?
your theme song.
So, it's like, what are you criticizing Head Cut for?
It-
You're just going to like that's your theme song. If a band's gonna walk around playing your theme song, like I'm gonna get you, sucker, it's gonna be Head Cut from Siouxsie and the Banshees.
Now I feel like one of your floating head from what is it from Immortal Era should like just
Yeah,
have this like he should be singing this song.
yeah. Dr. Man's just gonna sing it
Yes,
as his jam. But
yes,
yeah, she's just talking about it. It reminded me, honestly. First off, I thought, yeah, that's definitely Dr. Man's theme song. I think I even wrote that in the notes. But it reminded me of the movie Trick or Treat,
yes.
where the guy, one of the sequences, they decapitate the annoying boy, and
Yep.
they carve him as a pumpkin. And when she was talking about the things she would do to the severed head besides keeping it on ice, she's gonna feed it and put lipstick on it.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, oh, that reminds me of that sequence with the jack-o'-lantern. And did they get influenced by it? I would have to
It
wonder
would
if you could if you could ask the director of Trick or Treat a question.
it
Would
would
you
not
say,
shock.
hey, did that scene, that sequence come from Head Cut? Did you get an influence? And they can say no, but I wouldn't believe them.
It wouldn't shock. At this point, it would not shock me if they weren't a little influenced by it.
Yeah, because it just reminded me so much of that. And then I just kind of laughed like, yeah, it's me and my severed heads in books, and one of them being a main character. It certainly it's a theme song for me, and it's especially Dr. Man. So yeah, I think as far as it goes, I'm not gonna skip any, but that's the closest I got.
Yeah.
Where I would actually take it off. Into the Light, there's this whole thing. I don't know what it is. It's called a gizmo, the instrument.
Yeah.
And that every podcast I listened to talked about how it uses the gizmo, which that makes that do 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 sound that's going there. And it's not a guitar. It's one of those things where I guess no one uses it much. I think it was used on one Led Zeppelin song, but I couldn't find what it looks like. I mean, I guess what it sounds like is that, but it's called the Gizmotron, and it's a device that you put onto the strings of your normally violin, cello, and things like that, and it creates that kind of a weird sound, but I guess it's ridiculously hard to use. So most people, you turn your violin into kind of a sounding like the string, and most musicians don't want to use it, but they had one in the studio and thought they would play around with it. So
it worked.
yeah,
I mean, it worked.
It worked. It's just, I wonder. I mean, I can't even find a picture of it. I see images, but they don't really show much. And if you wanted a Gizmotron, you're gonna pay a lot of money.
Probably.
It's like $3,800 on Amazon right now, or not on Amazon, but on my search. And then I put in images, and nothing comes up. So you're gonna pay $3,800 for an instrument that you don't even know what it's going to look like when you get it. And they say they're temperamental, and most musicians give up after trying it, but they were able to make it work.
Is it almost like a capo, or no? You put it at the end of the guitar, where the capo you would put at the on the capos itself. So
yeah,
then
I know.
I saw a picture of it,
and I know they used an EBO as well. And I don't know what that looks like, but that looks like it goes onto the guitar itself. And I know the only band I know that used the EBO that I'm aware of was REM. And REM loved to play with kind of strange experimental instruments as well. I mean, we definitely got to, I haven't heard most of REM's early stuff, so definitely got to pull out one of REM's early albums and play it. I think I have their early greatest hits, but don't know the albums in their entirety. So something to think about for future shows. We have there's always new stuff coming up, and we kind of have the rest of the year mapped out, but next year wide open. So if you have suggestions, let us know. We can't guarantee we'll do them all because we had our whole stretch of suggestions and it got out of hand, but we will at least take into consideration yours. And yeah, if DM was here, he'd be just dropping 70s things and I would be telling him no. But
yes, and I would be right there with you, DM.
Yeah, but since
so
he's
April,
not here,
so would April though. April,
yeah.
Is she ever going to put in I know she's put in a request for yacht rock, so
yeah,
maybe we ought to do some yacht rock,
or not. Either way,
or not.
All right, so our easy category of the day.
Yeah, too easy.
We keeping this, or are we returning it to the used bin?
This one is going to the front of the line.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I had no history, like we talked about. I had no history with this band. I just picked this randomly because it was one I had not heard. I've heard of Siouxsie and the Banshees. Don't get me wrong, and I've heard a few of their songs, but this was one I'd never heard, and especially this was my time frame, the 80s.
Yeah, 81.
This is my time frame, and I was surprised that I hadn't heard it.
Yeah, and it's funny if you look at the top stuff that was in 1981. This is so absolutely different than the stuff that was coming out in 1981.
Yeah, you got your REO. That was your REO Speedwagons and your
it was
your Journey and all that stuff was.
That's probably why I didn't hear. It was the top songs of 1981 were Betty Davis Eyes, Lady, Jesse's Girl, Endless Love, Just Like Starting Over, Celebration, I Love a Rainy Night, Your Kisses on My List, 9 to 5, Keep on Loving You, Morning Train, and the theme song from Greatest American Hero.
See, that's why. That's probably a reason. I don't know why this one didn't. Probably because they did think it was too dark. It should have got more mainstream. Yeah, it should have had more mainstream play.
Yeah, and I mean, I know from what I was looking at and researching, it didn't seem to really hit the U.S. at all. It didn't get on any kind of radio play. But I mean, you look at the junk that was being played at that point in time. I mean, and junk is subjective. Feel free to talk trash, but there's some rough stuff in that mix of.
No, I'm not turning off Greatest American Hero. I'm not turning that. If that song comes on, it's staying on.
But I got no problem with that, but I can skip Eddie Rabbit's I Love a Rainy Night. I can skip that for an eternity and be just fine.
Well, you got to listen to it at least once on a rainy night, okay? Once on a rainy night, then you're good.
Well, I do have, because I'm weird and I make themed playlists on my Spotify, and I have a rain playlist that I play if I happen to get stuck in the rain when I'm out there running. And it is in that list because
there you go.
I did it. It was on my Facebook, and I said, okay, what are some rainy songs? Drop them in there, and that was one that someone suggested. So it is in my playlist. So if it's raining, it does get played, but otherwise, it's an eternal skip. And I think let me see what else. One Jesse's Girl, I can live without that.
I am never ever going to turn off any 80s song. That's just me. That's just again. Well, I can't say that. There are some 80 songs I dislike, but that list you read off, that was a pretty good top list. I'm not gonna lie. But I mean,
he's adding them all to his Spotify. That'll be his next year's Wrapped.
With as many like I said, with as many albums that we listened to this year, and we did repeat them over and over. The country, for some reason, country still dominated my list this year, and I couldn't believe it. It didn't even feel like it. But I'd go out on my runs or my walks or whatever I was doing, and for some reason, that's what was dominating my playlist. And the only one that got close or got into my top albums for whatever reason was the Tron Aries, and that's because it was Trent Reznor, and I had to listen to that quite a bit. So
yeah,
so
because it's mostly instrumental, so it kind of
mhm.
works as good background writing music. Although if I were to pick instrumental Nine Inch Nails, go for the Ghosts. Like
Ghosts.
Ghosts, I think is 1 through 8 he has, and they're beautiful, mostly instrumental tracks that are great for writing. Because some of the Tron songs are kind of drony and weak, but overall, it's a good writing soundtrack. So that one was, I think, it was in my top 10. I know that.
Yeah, it was in my top 10 for but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like five of my top 10 belong to my class. 5 of my top 10 belong to myself. So it was just a messy mix. And then my most listened to thing was podcasts, because I do a lot of listening
Yeah.
to podcasts when I'm driving, because I don't really play the radio. So I'll just play podcasts when I'm driving back and forth to work. So a
Yep.
lot of what was in there was podcast. And of course, I do use the podcast for research for the show as well. So
Absolutely.
it's, I grabbed those. So now it's going to be like, okay, you seem to really enjoy podcasts about Siouxsie and the Banshees, Juju. It's like, all right, for this week. So next week it'll be if I can find podcast about our other. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
we're keeping this one. I'm
Yep.
definitely keeping it as well. I think I played it when I was sitting there. I got this cool like gingerbread AT-AT Lego set, and I just wanted to sit and build it, because that day I went out, I did all the weeding, and then I get in my car and I hear the brakes scraping. So I'm like, all right, there will be no relaxing this Sunday. You're going to go right from weeding the garden to changing the brakes. So that was my Sunday. So I'm like, I'm going to finish it with Legos and Siouxsie and the Banshee. And yes.
I listened to the album obviously the one time to get our initial thoughts, but I listened to the album 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
I listened to it 5 times in a row. It was that good.
I think we did that, and then I finally just said, like, all right, I'm gonna play something else dark, and it was that into Black Sabbath, because it just, the vibes were working.
Paranoid.
Then you could play some Godspeed You Black Emperor, because that's nice and dark and broody, and yeah, it's like that. We were kind of just bouncing between our dark music, because yeah, you can't, once you got the vibe set, you don't want to mess it up by putting
Oh, yeah.
something else on. Then I get like the Cure Disintegration to close it all out, and yes,
Yeah,
that was
you
good stuff.
definitely don't. Well, I kind of had to, but you definitely don't, because I got my girls, so I had to listen to some upbeat with them.
Yeah.
Like Dad, they didn't listen to any of this album, but they were wanting me to be done so we could listen to their music. So
Anything upbeat, yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
you've just brought this dark atmosphere into the house. Like, all right, we're just gonna turn off the lights. We're gonna light some candles. We're gonna bring back the jack-o'-lantern, because it needs to be brought back out.
Yeah.
We'll throw a Santa hat on it so it works for the season.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's what this album says, was, why didn't you cover it in Halloween? And I'm the one that puts the list together of our timelines, and I guess I just didn't realize how perfect and appropriate it would be.
Yeah.
All right. But we're keeping it. And now let's talk about next week. I have never even heard
No next week, but the week after next.
2 weeks. Yeah, next week, Dash and I will both be at performances. He'll be there with his daughters. I will be there with my class. So we won't be here next week. This week was initially, my performance was supposed to be tonight. And thankfully, they extended it by a week, because we had no time to practice the song. If it would have been tonight, we would have had 2 days of practice. So it would have been rough. So fortunately, we have another week. My kids can actually learn the song and sing it, and I can add it to my list of Christmas songs to never hear again, because I'll be playing it about 800 times this season.
Yeah.
So every Christmas song that we have to do for my Christmas performance ends up making the list of Please Never Again. But yes, for next week, 2 weeks from now, we will have Whiskey Town, a Stranger's Almanac. I've never heard Whiskey Town. I have no idea anything about them. So it'll be fun to go in fully blind and hopefully enjoy it and not curse the pick.
2 albums in a row where we don't know anything. Nice.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, with Siouxsie and the Banshees, I know her. I know
her.
I knew Halloween. I think I had Halloween and I had Spellbound in my liked songs already. So I knew those ones, because they kind of played up, because my daughter's gotten really into the goth and industrial stuff. So we would play like goth mixes in the car, and those songs would come up. So I knew those 2 songs, but otherwise besides Beavis and Butthead, my knowledge was small. But next week, my knowledge is 0. So
0. Yeah,
I will find out more as we cover it and see what I can dig up on Whiskey Town and see if there's, podcasts devoted to it. But if not, we'll both go in blind and hopefully not curse the pick, because we've done that a few times where you think, all right, it was supposed to be good. Who knew it was going to be this bad? But before we sign off, I'm going to go give myself a shameless self-promotion.
There you go.
All right. So campaign talk, even though it's the wrong show for that. My campaign ends on Sunday. We will quickly play my trailer if you haven't seen it. So we'll play the quick Floaters trailer, and then I'll tell you about the book. And I will make sure this time, because last time we talked about our 2 campaigns and did not put the links in. I'll make sure I put the link in there. So if you want it, you can grab it. So here we go. Here's the trailer.
Are you or someone you love experiencing eye floaters?
Doctors will tell you they're harmless, tiny clumps of vitreous gel drifting across your vision, a simple byproduct of aging. But I'm here to tell you the truth. Floaters aren't harmless. They're parasites, silent, patient invaders that burrow into your mind. They whisper, they command, they turn you against those you love until violence feels inevitable. If you've begun to see them, seek solitude. Those around you are no longer safe. Your thoughts are not your own. Flee while you still can. Don't trust yourself, and whatever you do, don't trust your eyes.
I am so ready.
All right. So yes, it is done. The book is complete. It is lettered. It is going to the printer this week before the campaign ends. So yeah, there's the link to it. It is available until Sunday. I'll be doing, let me see. I got to look and see. I'm going to be on another show on the Madness Network. So pardon me for peeking at my phone real quick. But I am going to be on Sunday. I will be on, where's that show name? The Q&A art stream, and we'll be closing Floaters out from, I think it closes at about 4:45. So I'll be on there from 4 to 5 talking about it. If you want to know more about it, we have in the history on my YouTube, you can go and see the launch show where we talked everything about the book. We're not going to do that. I'll show you the trailer. I'll drop the link, and we are funded. We're actually nearing the next stretch goal, which will be another, I think we've unlocked the magnets now, and we'll be unlocking the sticker. And I've ordered the magnets because I knew that we would get there, and there are going to be 3 magnets with 3 different covers. And now we'll work on stickers, and if we can get there, hopefully a foil card, because the foil cards look really good. Dash got one from the from mine and Lori's campaign, the last one. So those, they're not foil. I guess they're metal cards.
Or metal cards
always come out really good. So yeah, hopefully we can unlock that. But if not, we're funded. You will get your books, and the digital copies I will send out the day after the campaign closes. So I'm going to send those out right away, and should be exciting. I'm excited.
My daughters love all the magnets. They play with all the magnets.
Very cool. All right. So until next week, 2 weeks from now, because I will not be on my Saturday show. I have work. I'll be teaching Saturday school, but I'll be on Sunday. Tune in 4:00 and close out Floaters with me. And until then, have a great rest of your week.
Bye, guys.